Welcome back to Inside Sources. In this segment, I want to talk with young Nigerians to give us what their perspective is for last year and to show us what is the face of our future looking like. To join me in that important conversation, I'd like to bring back two of my guests who were with me about the same time last year. To my far right, I have Mr. Khalil Ajibola, who is doing his master's program in IT, that is information technology. Khalil, welcome back to Inside Sources.
Nice being here, sir.
All right. And on my immediate right, I have Ibrahim Guzo, who is also doing his master's program in mechatronics. That's a mix, a putting together of mechanical and electronics engineering, if I'm right, Ibrahim.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to Inside Sources.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right, excellent. So let's start with Ibrahim. Ibrahim, I know that you are actually doing your master's program in the United States. What do you think about what just happened in the country? You have the Americans, helping the Nigerian government working together to go after the terrorists. What do you think?
I think it's a complicated issue that could either be really good or also have a lot of problems, depending on how it's gone about. I think if our government is able to adequately work with the American government, then we could hopefully have some better situations in the north of Nigeria. However, at the same time, there are obviously worries about exploitation in the country and other issues that we can run into when working with the Western world and how they view our country.
Okay, excellent. What about you, Khalil? What do you think? Same question.
Yeah, we accept their challenges, but we welcome all assistance from all parts of the world in order to solve the problem. When you have a problem, generally, you set solutions majorly, and with the solutions, we can then hope to see better results. So we welcome more collaboration between the Nigerian government and, of course, global partners in order to completely solve the security crisis all over the country.
So both of you guys think that, it's okay, the Americans can help us, it's generally a fine thing.
Yeah, we welcome the collaboration.
I think it can turn out fine depending on how our government handles this.
What specifically do you think the government shouldn't do or should do, since you have that, condition? What can go wrong?
I think that a lot of the issues over there could be solved with adequate leadership, especially of our military. So I feel like if our country makes sure to take control and also stay in control of the issue, so that it's not every time we need help in the country, we have to call another country to help us, but we can handle our own issues on our own with our own military. So I think if we work in collaboration and have it in a situation where it's not collecting a fish from the fishermen, but learning how to fish on our own, then I think it could be a great situation.
Okay, what do you think about that too?
So for me, I think the best way it can happen is for the government to do better in terms of communicating the collaboration between us and the US, because that is what most people are afraid of. People are afraid of how they perceive the US influence in Nigeria. So the government needs to do better in communicating how it is to actually resolve the security situation.
All right, excellent. Let's move on. I actually brought you back because I want us to continue the conversation that we started last year or at the beginning of this year about the future of our country. So how do you guys, what's your assessment of what has happened in our country since the last time we had the conversation? I'm sure that you guys keep up with the news. Let's start with you, Ibrahim.
The last time I was here was exactly a year ago when I was on your show. And since coming here since then, one of the largest things I've seen improve is the private sector in Nigeria. There are now companies like OPay and MoneyPoint and a lot more e-commerce, a larger e-commerce industry in Nigeria. And I think that's a really great way to further develop the country. Being able to rely on the private sector, apart from just relying on the government as well, can increase the amount of jobs we have, and it also increases more power to the people. So I think that's a really great area that's been developing since my last time here, which I hope to see continue more.
Okay, that's interesting because, it turns out that I think if you put OPay and MoneyPoint together, for instance, they seem to even be stronger than some of the banks. Do you think that necessarily is a good thing?
Incredibly. I think competition is the greatest way to have a proper private sector. So the more companies are fighting for that competition, the more they'll have to do what's best for the customers and the consumers and the citizens, so that's not one or two companies controlling the entire industry and being able to do whatever they want. But if you have a large number of different people with divided power, none of them can have too much power, and they have to do what's right. So I think it's a great thing.
Excellent, excellent. Khalid, what's your take?
So the last time we majorly talked about food inflation, and the inflation around the country then was around 28%. And we can see that there is a gradual decrease to around 14%. So we welcome more efforts in order to reduce food inflation generally in the country. So if we can see that more next year, but already this year we saw a gradual decrease in commodity prices in different sectors. So that's one. The second level is government spending. Government didn't do, there were some challenges in the budget, but the new budget for 2026 was a bit more conservative, and we did more conservative estimates. We do see better government efficiency in government spending, because throughout the year we usually saw, as I said, we usually saw growth in the economy through private spending and private sector. So of course, with the new tax law coming into place by January 1, 2026, we expect the private sector to also grow faster, because they'll be having lower CIT and lower, and there's generally more incentives for the private sector to actually do much better, especially medium to large scale organizations.
So you think the new reform, tax reform laws, you think is essentially a good thing?
Yes. Any educated person that reads through it will see that it actually has more benefits for organizations, who then end up hiring young people into the organizations.
Okay. Ibrahim, what do you think about the new tax reforms?
I haven't read up too much on the tax reform side. I have to see all the details to it, but I think it could be a great tax reform if all of the subsidies from it and all the places where it's spent, it's all going to the right places. Then I think it could be incredibly beneficial. It's being used for infrastructure, for subsidizing the proper industries to allow them to grow, then it could end up good. But I'd have to read up more on it to see the exact details.
All right. So what I want to do now is that, I want you guys to, in your own assessment, what are the big ticket issues of the last 1 year, in your view, in the country, whatever it is it the politics, is it the economy, business, whatever it is? I want both of you to just tell us one thing that you think that was the big ticket issue last year. Okay, you guys need a minute to think about that. Or maybe even one or two. Who wants to start?
Okay, it's fine. For me, majorly two things: economy and security. For economy, as I said earlier, we see the inflation numbers are going down, which is actually what will benefit the masses. Because we even if we tell someone that Nigeria is growing by 4%, people are like, oh, but we are not seeing the effect. So, of course, inflation was a very big topic, because a lot of people initially were against the numbers, saying that, oh, they changed the base year of the inflation for the inflation targeting, the way they were calculating the inflation targeting, that they changed the base year. But we've seen a drop generally, and that's the first thing about the economy. Second is security. Of course, we need Nigeria to be more secure. Everyone knows that. So, of course, these issues of foreign help, foreign assistance, people are talking so much about it. So, of course, better communication about that needs to be done. So, generally, if we have increased security in the country, it will help increase the economy. So, basically, those are the two major big ticket issues I see. Basically, the economy and, of course, security.
Okay.
For politics, politicians always play politics, so they'll be fine.
I like that. The politicians will be fine. Ibrahim, what do you think?
Going off of that, I'd agree both of those are also the largest for the past year. I'd also add education to that. I feel like if we have a structured education and a good foundation for education in our country, we can go a lot further. If all of our students, the people go into politics, they all know what they're doing and they have the proper education and they know how bad things can be harmful and what good things are that could increase the country. I think education would be something that could propel us into prosperity in the country. And economy, of course, is definitely a really large thing. The more we can improve our own economy and increase our exports to other countries, for example, with Dangote now working on his oil refineries, then we can increase our economy by a lot and not be too reliant on other countries. Since once we get self-sufficiency, things like our inflation won't even be as big of an issue as they are now, since we won't have to compare everything to the dollar or to the pound or to the euro.
All right.
So those are definitely the largest issues for our country right now.
Okay. All right. So I have two important issues that I try to push, and I do it quite a bit with my guests. I want to do it with both of you guys. I've noticed two things. Number one, poverty in Nigeria is very, very alarming. And then the corruption, the level of corruption is also very disturbing. Now, what do you guys think about these two issues, poverty and corruption? Let's start with you, Khalid.
So in terms of poverty, the basic way we can actually reduce poverty numbers in the country is for the economy to grow faster, because the size of the Nigerian economy is small in comparison to its population. So we generally have a lower GDP per capita, and generally people will be poor. So in order to actually reduce poverty, we need to put hands all on deck to increase the size of the economy. So we should be growing much faster as a country, probably close to double digits. So for corruption, of course, there need to be generally more reforms, especially into the fiscal reforms. Part of the committee for tax headed by Mr. Taiwo. Also part of the things they are working on is fiscal reform. So generally, we need more fiscal reforms in public spending in Nigeria. So we need like these reforms will be majorly on two things: accountability and systems in which this money can be spent efficiently. So of course there are already some, but of course we generally need more improvement, because when this accountability, when we can show this accountability in spending, that's when Nigerians can truly believe in government programs. Because for now, Nigerians are not believing in what government is, and it all stands down to accountability.
Interesting point. Ibrahim.
In terms of poverty, I would go back to education and saying that if that were improved in the country and gone even further, then we could have a lot less poverty-stricken people in the country, and not just sending them to secondary school, primary school, but also changing the entire structure of the way our education works, where it's not just a matter of someone learning a skill that might not be helpful for them. For example, if you're in specific regions that are in droughts or don't have water, further maths or subjects like those, they may be helpful to you, but for the most part, it'll be incredibly important for you to learn ways where you can improve irrigation systems and maybe, for example, farming, ways to do it with less water, and stuff that will be specific to regions that are poverty-stricken, and other skills like the trades. Trades would be incredibly important if they were all structured and people were able to learn them properly and go about having proper electricians, having a trade union for them, and going further in that way for education. I think that would be incredibly great with helping poverty. Of course, economy is also a really big thing for that, but education is something that I feel like is overlooked when it comes to poverty, and just the restructuring of that, I feel like could change a lot of things.
Okay.
And then in terms of corruption, I feel like education would also be a part of that, not just the civic education where you kind of like learn the list of all the things that it could cause, but actually having it so that the curriculum for that is structured in a way that shows you the real harmful effects, and every student is touched with the way they see the downsides of corruption, and they're going to reach the point where they're not even going to want to be corrupt, and they're going to see the benefits of a society without corruption. I also feel the judiciary is really important for stopping corruption, where no crime is too small and everything is structured so that anyone, no matter how small you are or how big you are, can take something to court and be able to see something get out of that. Recently, I saw a story in Nigeria of one of the larger banks that had debited someone for, I believe it was 1,000 naira, despite them not being deserving of that debit. And they took it to court, and eventually what ended up happening was, after appealing it, they got a reversal for their 1,000 naira. But what should really happen is the bank should be held accountable to that for either more quantity or more fines or maybe more restrictions, because just returning the 1,000 naira that wasn't deserving. Exactly, after all the trouble as well. And if they start seeing larger fines and larger issues, they're going to stop taking money from their customers. And that's just like one example. Then a larger scale could benefit all of Nigeria.
Okay, excellent point. I want you guys to tell us what you have done in the last 1 year. What are you doing and all of that? Give us an update.
So in the past year, I've continued with research that I mentioned last time I was on your show about using piezoelectric sensors to increase prosthetics and how they work so they're more realistic and you're actually able to feel with them, and they feed that back to the nerves. So people who have prosthetics, it's not just a matter of functionality, but it also gives them like actual use, and they can actually feel like it's an actual arm, which can motivate them more in life. And I've been working on that. I published a paper recently with the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and the end goal for that is currently I'm working on trying to get human subjects, and once it goes further, hopefully be able to use that more in Nigeria, where going over the poverty and the security, where a lot of people who don't have certain limbs or they're disabled will be able to use these prosthetics and continue to live a quote unquote normal life, and be able to get jobs easier.
So the one of the highlights of this, your research, is that the prosthetics will communicate more with the nerves. Is that what you're trying to say?
So for example, if I have the prosthetic, if I touch this table, you'll actually feel it in your nerves. You'll feel the texture, how hard you're pushing down on it, which can also help you be able to have more dexterity with all the fingers and do a lot more different tasks.
So how do you guys intend to do that?
So currently, the piezoelectric sensor, that's what's going to be reading all the forces and seeing the frequency of all the bumps to be able to get that information. That's what our paper was mainly about, trying to make that cheap so anyone can afford it, and not that's $10,000 or 100 million naira per prosthetic. And our main focus is trying to get that as cheap as possible, which we've done now. So the next steps are to finish the design for the hands itself and then interface that with the nerves of human subjects and then move from there.
Wow, interesting. Thank you so much. Khalil?
Yeah, so for me, we are running a cybersecurity consulting firm in which we consult for medium to small organizations on how to improve their cybersecurity posture. So we work with them in terms of governance, regulation, and compliance, for them to be compliant in how they handle their data, or their organization's data, or their customer data. So yeah, basically that's also working on a research to, especially in Nigeria, on how to protect people from cyber crimes. Because we see a lot of cyber, especially in the financial space. And a lot of times these cases are not usually like pursued to solution. And also about the phone thefts and laptop thefts around the country. Because we see cases about, because we do forensics, digital forensics, and we find cases in which people get their phone stolen in Abuja, and before they know it, the phone is in Kano or is in Kaduna. So yeah, we are working on that and how to actually find ways to solve this, to reduce these issues, especially in the Nigerian context.
Excellent. Thank you guys for coming back to Inside Sources, and thank you for the promises that you guys offer the country. And I'm excited by some of the stuff that you guys are doing. And I say Merry Christmas, compliment of the season, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
All right. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. It means Nigeria will win. Thank you for watching. My name is Laolu Akonde. And by the grace of God, I'll see you again next edition. Happy New Year.